The void of space rarely surprised Captain Orcs anymore. After 3 decades navigating the intricate trade routes of the Galactic Concordance, he thought he had seen everything. The sophisticated sensors of the exploration vessel Luminous Edge had mapped countless stellar anomalies, encountered dozens of emerging civilizations, and maintained the delicate balance of galactic diplomacy. But this was different. The unknown vessel materialized without warning, without the characteristic energy signature of a quantum jump, without even the courtesy of a standard approach vector. It simply existed where moments before there had been only starlit emptiness. Orcs's 3-fingered hands moved across the holographic controls, his membranous skin shifting to a pale blue, the physiological tell of his species' heightened alertness. The ship before them defied every established design principle. Its hull was a nightmare of angular metal, all sharp edges and utilitarian brutality. Weapon ports bristled across its surface like defensive spines, each looking modified and custom-fitted in ways that suggested countless previous conflicts. Quantum scan, he barked to his navigation officer, a young Viridian named Lux. Full spectrum analysis. The results were puzzling. The vessel's metallurgical composition was unlike anything in the Concordance database. Its energy signatures were primitive by galactic standards, yet there was an underlying complexity that suggested something far more sophisticated was happening beneath the surface. No communication signals, no identification markers, no standard diplomatic transponders, just silence and that impossible ship. On the bridge of the unknown vessel, Commander Elena Rodriguez allowed herself a slight smile. Humanity's first deep space first contact mission was about to become the stuff of legend. She studied the alien vessel through the reinforced view screen, taking in its elegant design, so different from the brutal practicality of human engineering. The Concordance ship was a marvel of smooth curves and integrated technology, a testament to centuries of peaceful exploration. Her own ship, the U.S. Defiant, was a different beast entirely, a weapon of war dressed up as an exploratory vessel. "They're scanning us," Lieutenant Marcus Chen reported from the sensor station. His fingers danced across holographic interfaces, running countermeasures and defensive protocols. Quantum, electromagnetic, gravitational. They're being thorough. Rodriguez nodded. "Let them look. We have nothing to hide." The bridge crew was a carefully selected team, each member representing the best of humanity's diverse capabilities. They weren't just a military crew. They were pioneers, scientists, diplomats, and warriors rolled into one. The mission parameters were clear: establish first contact, assess potential threats, and open diplomatic channels, but never at the cost of human sovereignty. Orcs's communication officer, a crystalline being named Zora, worked frantically to establish contact. The standard universal communication protocols, algorithms developed over millennia of interstellar diplomacy, seemed to slide off the human vessel like water off ceramic. Something about this encounter felt fundamentally different. The Concordance had encountered hundreds of emerging civilizations. They had protocols, procedures, diplomatic frameworks that had maintained galactic peace for thousands of years. But humanity was going to be something else entirely. On the Defiance Bridge, Rodriguez turned to her crew. "Remember our training. We're not here to be controlled or categorized. We're here to show them exactly who we are." The stars glimmered around them, silent witnesses to a moment that would change everything. First contact was never truly about the first moment of meeting. It was about what came after, the understanding, the conflict, the potential for something greater. And humanity was ready to make its mark. The Concordance Diplomatic Intelligence Network was a marvel of quantum computing and linguistic complexity. A trillion-node artificial intelligence system that had negotiated peace between species more different from each other than humans could imagine. Its capacity for communication was considered the pinnacle of galactic technological achievement. It was about to meet its match. Senior diplomat Kriax watched in growing confusion as the standard first contact protocols disintegrated before his sensory tendrils. The human response to their carefully crafted communication was nothing short of linguistic warfare. State your purpose and align with concordance integration protocols. The quantum AI transmitted its message, a perfectly constructed linguistic algorithm designed to establish immediate hierarchical understanding. The human response came back instantly, devoid of any diplomatic nuance. Negative. We're here to establish our own terms. 5 words. No honorifics. No recognition of the Concordance's established communication standards. It was a verbal punch directly to the face of galactic diplomatic tradition. Kryax felt something unprecedented ripple through his neural network, a sensation that xenopsychology databases would later identify as genuine fear. These humans weren't just another species to be cataloged and managed. They were something entirely unexpected. On the bridge of the U.S. Defiant, Commander Elena Rodriguez reviewed the transmission with a mix of amusement and calculated strategy. Lieutenant Marcus Chen stood beside her, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. "They're going to lose their minds," Chen muttered, a hint of a smile playing at the corner of his mouth. Rodriguez knew exactly what was happening. Humanity had spent centuries dealing with bureaucracies, corporate structures, and political systems. They understood the art of institutional disruption at a cellular level. What the Concordance saw as arrogance was, to humans, simply direct communication. The quantum AI continued its attempts, each transmission more complex, more layered with diplomatic subtlety. Each one was met with brutally simple human responses that seemed to deliberately sidestep every established protocol. When asked about their technological capabilities, the humans provided technical specifications that read like a challenge. Weapon systems, propulsion technologies, energy generation. Each detail was presented with a clinical precision that suggested not just capability, but a fundamental desire to be understood on their own terms. Aboard the Luminous Edge, Captain Erex watched the communication attempts with growing concern. The ship's linguistic analysis systems were working overtime, trying to deconstruct the human communication patterns. What they found was something entirely new, a communication style that was simultaneously literal and metaphorical, direct and nuanced. The humans weren't just communicating. They were probing, testing, challenging every single assumption of galactic diplomatic interaction. "They're measuring our response," Zara, the crystalline communication officer, reported. Her molecular structure shifted, reflecting her internal computational processes. "Each transmission is a test. They're not seeking to conform. They're seeking to understand by challenging." Kryax felt something that, in a biological being, might have been described as a headache. The quantum AI was encountering something outside its massive predictive algorithms. Humans didn't just think outside the box. They seemed unaware that a box had ever existed. A deeper analysis revealed something even more disturbing. These communication attempts weren't just random. They were carefully constructed, each message revealing exactly what the humans wanted to reveal, nothing more. Commander Rodriguez understood the game perfectly. First contact wasn't about submission or immediate understanding. It was about establishing boundaries, demonstrating capability, and showing that humanity would engage on its own terms. "Send the next transmission," she instructed Chen. The message was simple, direct, and would be remembered as the moment everything changed. "We are humanity. We are here. Adjust accordingly." In the vast, cold mathematics of space, a new variable had been introduced, and nothing would ever be the same again. The Concordance Border Patrol arrived with the confidence of a military force that had maintained galactic peace for millennia. 3 sleek vessels, each a marvel of integrated technology, moved with practiced synchronization. Their mission was simple: escort the unknown human vessel and ensure compliance with established first contact protocols. They believed it would be a routine intervention. They were catastrophically wrong. Lieutenant Commander Vex, leading the patrol squadron, watched the human vessel through advanced quantum-linked sensors. His species had developed these tracking systems over centuries, capable of predicting movement patterns with near-perfect accuracy. But the human ship defied every predictive model. Initiating standard escort protocol, Vex transmitted, his voice a clinical blend of authority and bureaucratic precision. The U.S. Defiance response was anything but standard. As the Concordance vessels moved to flank the human ship, Commander Elena Rodriguez was already 3 steps ahead. The bridge of the Defiant hummed with an almost tangible energy, a combination of technological readiness and human adaptability that would soon become legendary. Defensive Configuration Alpha 7, she called out. The command wasn't just an order. It was a choreographed dance of technological innovation. The Defiant didn't run. It didn't raise traditional shields. Instead, it began a series of maneuvers that would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations to come. Gravitational field manipulators, a technology the Concordance believed was decades away from practical implementation, activated with surgical precision. The human ship didn't just move, it danced through space, using the patrol vessel's own energy signatures against them. The first strike was psychological. Before a single weapon fired, the Defiant's communication systems launched a targeted electronic warfare assault that left the Concordance vessels momentarily blind. Navigation systems flickered. Sensor arrays went dark. For 3 critical seconds, the patrol was completely defenseless. When their systems recovered, the situation had fundamentally changed. The human vessel had systematically disabled every offensive and defensive capability of the 3 Concordance ships. Weapon ports were sealed. Propulsion systems were locked. Energy weapons were rendered inert, and not a single crew member had been harmed. It was a message written in the language of technology. We can destroy you, but we choose not to. Lieutenant Marcus Chen's fingers flew across the holographic interfaces. Defensive systems neutralized. No casualties. Total system lockdown complete. Rodriguez nodded. This wasn't just a demonstration of technological superiority. This was a carefully calculated performance, a first contact that would reshape galactic understanding of humanity. Aboard the lead Concordance vessel, Lieutenant Commander Vex felt something unprecedented. Not just fear, but a fundamental recalibration of understanding. These humans weren't just another species to be managed. They were something entirely new. The quantum communication networks across the Concordance lit up with the transmission of what had just occurred. Diplomatic channels, military networks, scientific research stations, all suddenly focused on this single moment of first contact. Humanity had arrived, and they had made it abundantly clear that they would be nobody's passive participant in galactic politics. Transmission to Concordance Command, Rodriguez said quietly. Mission Objective 1. Completed. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, witnessing the moment everything would change. The intelligence files arrived through encrypted quantum channels, passing through security protocols that had never been breached before. What they revealed would fundamentally alter the Concordance's understanding of the universe. Humanity was not just another species. They were an evolutionary anomaly. Dr. Kira Nakamura's personnel file read like a psychological case study in human potential. Born in the aftermath of the Third Global Reconstruction period, she represented a generation forged in constant adaptation. Her doctoral thesis, completed simultaneously in quantum physics, xenobiology, and advanced systems engineering, was itself a testament to human capabilities. The planetary records of Earth painted a picture of a species that had turned near extinction into an art form. Climate catastrophes, global conflicts, technological disruptions. Each challenge had not just been survived, but transformed into an opportunity for radical innovation. The most disturbing revelation was humanity's technological progression. Where most emerging civilizations took centuries to develop basic interstellar capabilities, humans had compressed millennia of technological evolution into mere decades. Their first nuclear technology had been developed during a global conflict. Their initial computer systems emerged from military research. Space exploration was a direct product of competing national ambitions. Intelligence analyst Torn, a being composed of interconnected quantum networks, found himself experiencing something akin to biological vertigo while processing the human data. Their historical records showed a species that didn't just adapt, they deliberately created environments that forced adaptation. Take the early internet, for example, a global communication network that had started as a military project and transformed into a planetary knowledge exchange system. Or their medical technologies, which consistently pushed the boundaries of biological understanding. Humans didn't wait for solutions, they engineered them. The psychological profiles were even more fascinating. Where most galactic species had evolved toward consensus and collective thinking, humans celebrated individual innovation. Their greatest achievements often came from individuals who were considered outsiders, rebels, or complete anomalies within their own society. Commander Elena Rodriguez's personal file was a perfect microcosm of this phenomenon. Born in a climate refugee settlement, she had simultaneously served as a military strategist, a quantum engineering researcher, and a diplomatic negotiation specialist. Such comprehensive capability was unheard of in other galactic civilizations. Military records showed something even more profound. Humans didn't just fight wars, they transformed the very concept of conflict. Their military doctrine was less about destruction and more about strategic transformation. They saw limitations not as barriers, but as puzzles waiting to be solved. A leaked alien analysis report captured the essence perfectly. Humans do not see obstacles. They see opportunities waiting to be conquered. The most terrifying revelation was their exponential learning curve. In less than a century of space exploration, they had developed technologies that challenged fundamental galactic understanding. Quantum communication systems that simplified complex interspecies translation. Adaptive energy systems that could reconfigure themselves based on environmental challenges. Propulsion technologies that seemed to dance around established physical limitations. Dr. Nakamura's research notes revealed the core of human innovation. Where other species sought perfect solutions, humans celebrated iterative improvement. Each failure was not a setback, but a data point, a stepping stone toward something better. The Concordance leadership realized they were facing something unprecedented. Humanity wasn't just another species to be categorized and managed. They were a fundamental disruption to everything the galactic order understood about technological and social evolution. Commander Rodriguez, reading through the classified reports about her own species, allowed herself a small smile. They had no idea what was coming. The universe was about to change, and humanity was leading the charge. Humanity had arrived, not as conquerors, not as supplicants, but as something entirely new. A species that would rewrite the rules of existence itself. The full Concordance battle fleet arrived like a symphony of technological perfection. 300 vessels, each a marvel of integrated design, moved with a precision that had maintained galactic peace for millennia. Their quantum-linked navigation systems allowed them to maneuver with a synchronicity that seemed almost supernatural. They expected a swift resolution to the human problem. They were catastrophically wrong. Fleet Admiral Zarakhan surveyed the tactical display, her multiple sensory tendrils interpreting data streams that would overwhelm most species. The human vessel, singular, alone, sat at the center of the holographic display like a predator surrounded by hunters. "Initiate standard containment protocol," she commanded, her voice a clinical blend of confidence and administrative precision. The first wave of attack was a masterpiece of coordinated military strategy. Quantum-locked energy weapons, gravitational disruptors, and synchronized attack vectors that had broken the resistance of dozens of species across the galaxy. The U.S. Defiant didn't just survive. It transformed the entire concept of space combat. Commander Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge, her posture relaxed despite the incoming assault. Around her, the crew moved with a synchronicity that defied traditional military training. They weren't just soldiers. They were adaptive systems, each member capable of multiple roles, each movement a calculated response. "Adaptive shield configuration," she called out. The command wasn't just an order. It was the initiation of a complex dance of technological innovation. The human ship didn't try to prevent the incoming attacks. It used them. Concordance energy weapons that should have torn through standard shielding were absorbed, their energy redirected. Gravitational disruptors intended to immobilize the vessel became sources of additional momentum. Each attack was not just defended against, it was weaponized. Lieutenant Marcus Chen's hands moved across holographic interfaces that seemed to anticipate his thoughts, redirecting energy cascade. Gravitational vectors realigned. The battle became something entirely new. Where traditional space combat was about overwhelming force, the Defiant turned the entire battlefield into a complex mathematical problem. It didn't just defend. It recalculated the entire engagement in real time. Entire Concordance squadrons found themselves caught in impossible maneuvers. Ships that had been designed for perfect synchronization suddenly found their quantum links turned against them. The human vessel moved less like a ship and more like a living, thinking entity. "They're not fighting," one Concordance tactical officer reported in growing horror. "They're solving a problem." Each movement of the Defiant was a message. "We can destroy you, but we're choosing to show you something else entirely." Weapon systems that should have been overwhelming became teaching tools. Defensive capabilities were transformed into demonstrations of technological potential. The humans weren't just fighting a battle. They were conducting a demonstration. Fleet Admiral Zerakan felt something unprecedented ripple through her neural network. Not just fear, but a fundamental recalibration of understanding. These humans were rewriting the very mathematics of conflict. Commander Rodriguez's voice cut through the chaos with surgical precision. "We didn't come here to be controlled. We came to show you what humanity means." The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, witnessing a moment that would redefine galactic understanding of warfare, technology, and potential. Humanity had arrived, and they were just getting started. The diplomatic chambers of the Concordance were spaces of perfection. Quantum-aligned translation systems, molecular-level emotional dampeners, and centuries of refined negotiation protocols created an environment where conflict was mathematically improbable. Humanity was about to shatter every single one of those assumptions. High Consul Vrentok adjusted his neural interface, studying the human delegation with a mixture of scientific curiosity and growing unease. Commander Elena Rodriguez sat at the negotiations table, not as a supplicant, not as a subordinate, but as an equal. No, more than an equal, as a disruptive force. "We are prepared to discuss your integration into established galactic protocols." Vrentok began, his multi-layered communication systems crafting a message of bureaucratic inclusivity. Rodriguez's response was vintage human, direct, unexpected, slightly confrontational. "We're not here to be integrated," she said. "We're here to change the system." The translation algorithms momentarily froze. The diplomatic dampeners, sophisticated systems designed to smooth over potential conflict, seemed to short-circuit. The humans had brought a delegation that defied every established norm. Dr. Kira Nakamura, the quantum physicist. Marcus Chen, the adaptive systems engineer. A team that wasn't just diplomatic representatives, but walking demonstrations of human potential. Where previous species had sent carefully selected diplomats trained in millennia-old negotiation techniques, humanity sent problem solvers. Each member of the delegation wasn't just representing their species, they were actively demonstrating humanity's core philosophy. "Your current galactic governance model is fundamentally inefficient," Dr. Nakamura observed, her statement more scientific analysis than diplomatic criticism. "We're not asking to join. We're offering to help you redesign." The Concordance leadership found themselves in unprecedented territory. These humans weren't seeking permission. They were offering a fundamental reimagining of galactic interaction. Traditional diplomatic protocols relied on established hierarchies, carefully managed information exchanges, and a slow, consensus-driven approach to change. Humanity operated on an entirely different wavelength: rapid iteration, direct communication, and a fundamental belief that any system could be improved. Lieutenant Chen demonstrated this perfectly. While the high-level diplomats discussed macro-level governance, he was already interfacing with the Chamber's communication systems, identifying inefficiencies, suggesting real-time improvements. Your quantum communication networks have a 0.03% signal degradation in long-range transmissions, he mentioned casually, as if discussing the weather. We can improve that by approximately 42% with a simple algorithmic adjustment. Vrentok felt something that, in a biological being, might have been described as a headache. The humans weren't just negotiating. They were redesigning the negotiation process itself. Commander Rodriguez's final statement would be remembered as a turning point in galactic history. We're not here to join your alliance. We're here to change it. The diplomatic dampeners completely failed. For the first time in millennia, the Concordance leadership experienced genuine, unfiltered emotional response. Confusion, frustration, and beneath it all, a growing sense of something else. Respect. Humanity had arrived, and they were rewriting the rules of engagement. The first joint research session was scheduled to last standard 8-hour cycles. It would continue for 17 consecutive planetary rotations, with researchers from multiple species watching in growing amazement. Humanity didn't just solve problems. They reimagined the entire concept of problem-solving. Dr. Kira Nakamura stood before a holographic interface that represented the most complex quantum communication barrier in galactic history, a technological challenge that had stumped the Concordance's best minds for centuries. Where previous research teams had approached the problem with incremental, consensus-driven methodologies, she saw something else entirely. A puzzle, a challenge, an opportunity. We're not going to solve this, she told the assembled researchers from a dozen different species. We're going to break it. The Quantum Research Facility was a marvel of integrated technology. Crystalline computational matrices, neural-linked research stations, adaptive learning systems that represented the pinnacle of galactic scientific achievement. Generations of researchers had dedicated entire lifespans to understanding this particular communication barrier. Nakamura solved it before lunch. Her approach wasn't just innovative. It was revolutionary. Instead of trying to work within the existing technological framework, she completely reimagined the underlying mathematical models. What the Concordance saw as immutable physical limitations, she saw as temporary obstacles. The breakthrough came not from advanced equipment, but from a distinctly human approach, treating the quantum communication barrier like a complex, adaptive system that could be coached rather than solved. Across the research facility, scientists from multiple species watched in growing disbelief. The human researchers weren't just working. They were playing, treating each technological challenge like an intricate game that could be mastered through creativity and relentless iteration. Marcus Chen, working on a seemingly unrelated propulsion problem, demonstrated the same approach. A technological limitation that had been considered mathematically impossible was dismantled with what could only be described as intellectual playfulness. It's not about the solution, Chen explained to a bewildered Concordance senior researcher. It's about understanding why we thought it was impossible in the first place. The research teams worked in a way that defied traditional scientific methodology. No rigid hierarchies, no careful, slow consensus building. Instead, a dynamic, almost chaotic approach where ideas were rapidly generated, tested, discarded, and reimagined. 3 different solutions to the propulsion problem were developed before the primary research cycle even completed its first rotation. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, overseeing the research efforts, understood exactly what was happening. This wasn't just technological development. This was a fundamental demonstration of human potential, a species that saw limitations not as barriers, but as invitations to innovation. The quantum communication networks across the research facility lit up with transmissions documenting what was occurring. Scientific databases were being rewritten in real time. Entire fields of study were being transformed. The Concordance had invited humanity to participate in their scientific community. Humanity was rewriting the entire concept of scientific collaboration. Technological limitations weren't obstacles. They were opportunities. And humanity was just getting started. The transformation happened with a speed that defied galactic historical precedent. Within a single solar cycle, humanity had gone from an unknown quantity to a pivotal force that would reshape civilization itself. It wasn't conquest. It wasn't diplomacy. It was something far more profound. A fundamental reimagining of potential. The Concordance leadership gathered in their most sacred deliberation chamber, a quantum-linked space that had remained unchanged for millennia. High Consul Vrentok reviewed the accumulated data, his neural interfaces struggling to process the magnitude of human impact. Technological innovations, diplomatic disruptions, strategic revelations. Humanity hadn't just arrived on the galactic stage. They had rewritten the entire script. Commander Elena Rodriguez understood this perfectly. The first contact mission was never about a single encounter. It was about demonstrating a fundamental truth about human potential. Every interaction was a demonstration. Every challenge an opportunity to show what humanity represented. "We're not here to replace your systems," she had told the Concordance leadership. "We're here to help you evolve." The numbers told a story that defied conventional understanding. Technological innovation rates increased by 237% in research sectors interfacing with human teams. Diplomatic resolution times reduced by 64% in regions with human diplomatic presence. Strategic military doctrines reimagined across multiple species. Dr. Kira Nakamura's research teams had already developed communication technologies that simplified interspecies understanding. Marcus Chen's adaptive systems were being integrated into critical infrastructure.